time since I last made a video, probably about 3 years ago. I was kind of a little bit, I got burnt out, and I had some people that were expecting Lang Focus out of this channel, and I respect Lang Focus. I watch his content, and we're both just two fellow lads who love languages, and that's about it. I just want to preface right now by saying that this channel is LangShack. I've had this name out since, in some form or another, since 2014. And this is not a rip off from his channel. I've been doing these videos for almost a decade now, in some form or another. So I just want to put that out there, that if you're expecting Lang Focus, then go watch a Lang Focus video. This is a different channel. I have my own unique perspective to making videos. With that said, I'm back, and I'm going to be making videos about once a month. So I just wanted to put that out there, just because it's been so long. I appreciate the people who voted in the poll to choose this language, and I'll be doing more of those polls. So let's go ahead and dive into it. So this is a map of the Arawakan language distribution. This language group is probably one of the largest in the Americas in terms of not just how many languages there are, but its geographical spread. So as you can see, this language group has many languages in the Caribbean, as well as in South America throughout the Amazon, and toward the south, as far south as Paraguay, Chile, if you see it on here. So some topics we'll be discussing today. We'll be talking about some facts about the family, pronouns in the Proto-Arawakan language, which is the ancestor of all of the of all the Arawakan languages. We'll be talking about typical features of its phonology in general. Obviously some languages have slightly different phonology and phonetics than others, but there are some general traits in common between them. We'll be talking about some general grammar that is shared in many of their languages, such as classifiers, alienable and inalienable possession, active static, stative alignment, which I'll explain what all of these mean as we go through, and also a little bit of common shared vocabulary, and then the conclusion. This is a picture of southeast Puerto Rico. I believe it's Yabucoa, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of my pictures. So some facts, right, about it. So today there are about 40 languages in this family that are actively spoken, and a few dozen that are dormant. And the language family, as I said a little bit earlier, spans from the Caribbean island chain. There's also one called Garifuna that's spoken in Central America in 4 different countries. It had a much wider spread, and it has an interesting story. And it goes through the Amazon as far as Paraguay and further south in the Amazon ends. And it is known to be the largest indigenous language family of the Americas. So some more facts about it. The Taino language of the Northwest Amazon is an interesting language because it involves a system of what's called linguistic exogamy. That basically means that the speakers who speak it have to marry somebody who speaks a different language. So one Taino person can't marry someone else that speaks Taino. And fun fact number 2. So this isn't 100% confirmed or known because there's very scant documentation on Kusabo and Kongari, but these 2 languages may have been spoken, or rather they were spoken in South Carolina before Columbus. But they are, it's said that these languages may have been Arawakan languages, but nobody's really sure. And if they are, then that means that this would be the only language family that spans both North and South America. So some more facts before we dive into the rest. So the Garifuna story is it's a very interesting story because many of the people who speak Garifuna today say they were never enslaved, and but whether they were or not, we're not going to discuss. So there were African peoples that were on a ship. They were captured by the Spanish. That's a known fact. And they shipwrecked near the island of St. Vincent, and later The group had intermixed with Native Americans, and possibly other groups of indigenous folks in the Caribbean and possibly in Central America. And later they migrated or moved to Belize, Nicaragua, Honduras, and Guatemala. And one of the most well-known Arawakan languages is known as Taino, which it has an accent on the I. Sorry, I forgot to put that here in this. And that was spoken by the Taino people, and they were the indigenous inhabitants of pretty much all the Caribbean islands. There were several Caribbean Taino dialects or languages, like classic Taino, Hagwe, Lucaya, and there were some others as well. Like this is where we get the word Borinquen, Quisqueya, referring to the entire island of Hispaniola, Jamaica, the Bahamas, and everywhere. And definitely, so this was likely the language of the first peoples that had contact with Columbus when he, whatever verb you want to describe, his the action of when he came over here. And basically this family, or rather the Taino language, gave us tons of words like hammock, hurricane, barbecue, guava, iguana, tobacco, and many, 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 many more. So these are the possessive pronouns. So these are kind of like my, mine, yours, his, ours, hers, stuff like that. And in many of the Arawakan languages, based on the pronoun suffixes I've seen, it's pretty, they're relatively stable, especially in the first person, as you'll see in some of the examples later in the video. So looking at this, I can't really explain what non-focused agent and dummy agent are under the singular columns, the singular columns. However, these are other aspects that are used in at least some of the Arawakan languages. So typical features of its phonology. So Arawakan languages display a somewhat stable phonology across its group, and typically they feature a 5-vowel system, A, E, I, O, U. I've got the most common IPA forms of these to the right for those who are more technical linguists. And some of these exhibit nasal features, such as in Tariana. Tariana has a long and a short nasal sound for each of the vowels except for O. And there's only one nasal sound for that. And many Arawakan languages feature stops, fricatives, and approximates. And Garifuna, which is spoken in Central America, as we saw earlier, includes many stops like b, d, k, and also nasals like and I may not be pronouncing those right, but that's fine. It does the job. So now we are going to move on to classifiers. So many Arawakan languages have what are called classifiers. These might be similar to some of you vis-a-vis the concept of counter words, which are seen a lot in languages like Mandarin Chinese, Korean, or Japanese, and I'm sure other languages around the world have them. This would be kind of similar to in English saying the pair like in a pair of shoes, or the word glass in a glass of water, or the word deck in a deck of cards, for example. The Kampa language of Peru displays this feature, and it can be attached to nouns, verbs, number words, and adjectives. And the Baniwa language of Northwest Amazonia and in present-day Venezuela and Brazil, it also has this feature, and as per Eichenwald, it has 46 different classifiers. These classifiers can be used in 3 different contexts, generally with numerals, adjectives, and a derivational suffix on nouns. And in this group, they further classify these into 4 different ones. So, and one of those has a subgroup. So one of them is used for human males, and it could also include those who are not alive. And you can see those in green. I'm not going to try to pronounce these because I'm not a native speaker. I've got a lot of flack for that in the past, so I'm not going to bother trying. And one is for body parts and males who are alive, so that's different from the one where human males, who aren't alive. So I'm not sure what the difference between these are, but between the one where human males are alive and the ones who aren't alive, but there will be some sources in the comments in that you may be able to access more information about regarding this topic. There's one for human females, and there are also many classifiers for different aspects of objects, like round objects, natural items, and these natural items can vary greatly. But these are just a couple of examples, like this one in the translation of this word stone, and in this these are Baniwa, by the way. It's the Baniwa language. And then there's also a classifier for thin slices, like as in a big thin slice of fish. So now let's look at some simple vocabulary shared across this language group in its subfamilies. So as you can see here, I've got Taino, Wayuu, Terena. I'm not sure how to pronounce the E with the circumflex exactly, but I'm trying my best here. Piro, Aroa, Warua, Tariana, and Garifuna. I have the area here for you, so you can see where it is located. So in Taino, these I've got the words in Taino, and then these different languages here. So if you look at the word for one, there's not, you don't really see a lot of similarities between, too many similarities between 1, 2, and 3. Taino just took a completely different turn with 2 and 3. I'm not sure if those are reconstructed or not, but the Taino language has been mostly reconstructed, so a lot of these numbers are from that reconstructed version of the language. And then the word for I is somewhat shared. But the word for maize or corn, it's pretty stable. If you take a look at them, I didn't put them in here. I should have, but though the words for corn they have a lot more similarity between the languages. It's very fascinating, actually, how it's kept. It's and that's where the word maize comes from. That's where the word maize comes from. It comes from Taino. It was kind of difficult to find the words for Garifuna, as well as the words for Wayuu. I had to go consult dictionaries and video lessons to get those, but and also for Taino, but I was able to get those. So now on to inalienable and alienable possession. So I'm going to try my best to describe what this is, and I've also touched up on this in many of my Polynesian language videos in the past. So to me, this means this is when an object can be possessed, but it also doesn't necessarily have to be connected to someone possessing it. This could be, for example, like tools, books, or some artificial object. Whereas inalienability is used when an item cannot be separated from the possessor. So, for example, a body part or kinship terms, like your mother or your aunt or your uncle or someone. And one example I'd like to give is you can't not have a relative. So even if you're disowned by that relative, they're still related to you by blood. And this can also, you can cut off your hand, but it's sorry to use that such a negative example here, but it's still your hand, so it's inalienable, so it cannot be taken away. So something like a book or an object can be, and the concept of inalienability can also refer to items or concepts that have cultural significance as well. So this concept, like I said, is very common in Polynesian languages. So in Wayuu, as you see here, you'll see that wa from the possessive pronoun suffixes from earlier. Wa, it's very stable. And then ta, which is also there as well, or nu, and that's in Garifuna. So in Garifuna, they essentially say my drink coconut to express that that's your coconut to drink. And in Wayuu, you're simply just adding the the suffix to the noun. In Tariana, the literal translation of this is she diminished with respect to her heart. So this is very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. Oh, and I marked the word for diminish here in the wrong color. Excuse me. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, that's kind of how it's done. And Tariana acts a little bit differently. So according to Eichenwald, she says obligatorily possessed nouns cannot be used without a cross-referencing prefix, although this is the same set of cross-referencing prefixes that are used for optionally or alienably possessed nouns. In Tariana, when you express an emotional state of being, especially or rather with an inalienable body part, then that typically the body part comes before the rest of the sentence, or the predicate in this case. So now we will move on to active stative or active stative alignment. So in the simplest terms, and again, this is just how I understand it based on reading about it. So we have the concept of transitive and intransitive verbs. So an example of an intransitive verb is I walked to school versus the transitive verb she walked Jim to school. So in a transitive sentence, Jim is the object that's required to be walked to school. Whereas in an intransitive sentence, you walk to school and you didn't have to, like when you walk your dog or something, or a mother walking her children or a father walking his children to school, it's that same concept. And so languages that exhibit this active state of alignment, they tend to merge these two concepts, or they at least have some semblance of both of them. So if you were to say the equivalent of he fell or I fell, it would mean that he voluntarily fell. So as in it was his choosing to fall, or it was his fault to do the falling. And in English, this doesn't really make sense because you didn't choose to fall. I mean, who chooses to fall? Or you can choose to injure yourself, but generally when you say that, you don't mean that. So a language that has this sort of alignment you would have to express this as fell me, to indicate that the speaker or whoever said that, it fell me, kind of like saying a disease befell me. I don't know, not many people say that today. That's how you would have to say to indicate that you did not choose to fall or carry out the action that led to the falling. So an example in MEHINÁKU, kukuhu is very happy. So this is a stative example, whereas it's basically saying very happy is kukuhu. So kukuhu is the verb at the very beginning of the sentence here, and kukuhu is at the very end. This could just simply be a syntax issue, but yeah, that is a stative verb, essentially saying that very happy kukuhu, or very happy is kukuhu, something like this. In Baniwa, this kind of goes back to that walk example. So it would just be like, walk he, or it walks him, something that might be another way of saying it. Some invisible force walks him, and this would be like an active intransitive verb. And then a stative example, so this would be like cold is him. So cold being a verb like this, sure, you're cold, but the way that it's expressed, it goes before, it kind of goes before. It's a very strange concept because this concept does not exist in English, where the active and the stative alignment merge, but that's kind of the case for some of these Arawakan languages. So that's all I had. There are a lot of extra things that are kind of sort of shared between these languages, but that's kind of what we had time to go through today. So up here at the top, you see the word for thank you in Wayuu, in Garifuna, and I think in Taino it's hahom, if I'm not mistaken. And do you have any favorite Arawak languages? And if so, which one of these languages intrigues you the most and why? Did you like the Garifuna? Did you think Garifuna was interesting? Did you think that Tariana was interesting? Do you think that Baniwa having 46 classifiers was extremely interesting? Do you speak any languages? Maybe there's a Wayuu speaker, one of the more known languages. Maybe there's somebody that learned the reconstructed form of Taino, or maybe somebody here watching it who was involved in the research to bring Taino back together. If so, what do you think of the relation to other Arawakan languages? Thank you all for watching and for your support, and I will be putting the resources that I used in the description. If you want to see any language topics, feel free to email me at languageshack@gmail.com, or reach out to me on any of the social media platforms. Instagram or Twitter is probably best. And I will read your messages as soon as I can. Thank you guys for watching.